this is Michelin's training fitment center. The idea is that all of their dealers, anyone looking to get the best training and knowledge on how to fit tires, just tire knowledge, tire information, comes here. It's in an area called Stoke-on-Trent, which actually Michelin have an office based here. It's such an unassuming place, but when you walk in here, they have every tire of every kind. So you might be fitting a slick for a racing car or a tire on a tractor, agricultural to track, and everything in between, motorbikes, motocross, and supercars. And that's why I'm down here, because this is the best place for it. But ultimately, these tires have never been fitted in England before. So while these guys know what they're doing, for me, it's an entirely new experience. It's a learning curve. I've never really had sort of a connected technology in a road tire to this degree. And ultimately, the idea is that after this fitment, I'm going to take it on my first track day on a track that I'm familiar with at Silverstone to find out what this thing is all about. All right, this is the second video in a row where the GT3 has been on a ramp, but today is awesome because today we are fitting the connected tires. I'm not sure if you guys followed the channel at the beginning of this year. I flew out to Spain and I drove this connected tire, which I shall share with you shortly. But these tires, these Cup 2s, have done probably 3 track days now, and it is time for them to get swapped out. And conveniently, it's timed with them being the first tires in the UK to be fitted to a car for a track day, the first connected tires anyway. Now, one of the things we have to do with the GT3, because they have this kind of unique central locking wheel nuts, is to get out the lock. So you undo the bonnet here. We need the adapter essentially to get the wheels off. Now, if we open this up here, if you didn't know, you would never know where to find this thing. By convention, there's housing areas here and here. You just pull those off, and it's got things like pump fluid in there for if you do get a slow puncture. And in here, there's tools. We've got the towing eye for track days, just in case you need it. Believe it or not, it is under this shrouding here. Now, at first glance, this doesn't look like it even comes out, but you can ping that and ping that, and then if you remove this, even still, the area where they've hidden, look at this area. This looks like it might be the top to a pump or some fluid housing or something. You remove this over here, that is where they hide the central locking wheel nut adapter. And conveniently, it also comes with this little thing here, which is designed to be able to ping out these central caps. So if you look just closely, there's a slight little notch there, and this has been perfectly designed. So you pull that in there, and voila, there is your central locking wheel nut. And this is the adapter, and once the cap is out, it just slots right on, and that is a satisfying fit. Now, we'll probably have to talk to Michelin about this. One thing which is unique about these is that they have to be torqued, which is the sort of tightening tension to a specific torque measurement. And that's where these guys' pro knowledge comes in play. So this, rookie numbers right here. 5,400 miles. The last GT3 I did 20,000 miles in 12 months. Well, I've had this car since April, and we're on 5.5. It's not a bad effort, but the majority of those have happened in just a few weeks on road trips like Gumball and the Supercars Club Arabia Tour. But those numbers there, they kind of remind me just how much I haven't been home. The Wyoming trip that I just came off the back of was my 74th flight this year. So, how about that? I gotta get this thing out more. And behold, some fresh rubber. Look, I know this is really nerdy, but there's nothing quite like a fresh tire. I say this quite a lot. It doesn't matter what car you've got or what technology's in it or whatever it is. Ultimately, everything to do with the car goes through the single contact point of the tire. And you know, by convention, I know tire purchases are quite loathsome things because they're wearable, black, dirty components. But this is everything. And honestly, I've driven cars where I've put the right rubber, particularly Michelin tires. I had an Audi R8. I've forgotten what brand it came with, but I swapped them to Michelin's, and the transformation in that car was huge. And it's ultimately because everything that the manufacturers have developed to make a fantastic car goes through this single contact point. It's not until you see them off the car. Like when they're on the car, you don't appreciate them. First of all, how big they are. Oh, look at the size of this. Look, that's my whole handspan. It's absolutely huge. And just how much engineering has gone into, like, these grooves are so deep. And there's also a compound change throughout the width of the tire. Obviously, the outside edge is where most of the heat and loading goes. But when you see them off a car, you appreciate just how big they are. I mean, these on the Porsche are going to be 305s. It is a substantially large tire. And seeing them clean and fresh, very satisfying. Yeah, look at all this. This is remnants of old track days. Yeah. Pickups and marbling and look at all that. One thing that makes this a pretty complex and specialist job is the intricacy and details of the engineering of the center locking wheels. Check this out. One thing you might not have seen is that is a spring-loaded locking mechanism which clicks into place on the 600 Newton meters of torque. And you've got to have all of this information and the gear to hand to make this work right. You've had to pull off the center cap, get the adapter on here, get a massive torque wrench to take it off and take it on. And then when we eventually tighten it up again, you have to tighten it up to 600 Newton meters, then you back it off a quarter of a turn and then back to 600 Newton meters again, just to make sure it sets. Look at that. Pretty crazy stuff. So I'm assuming these chunky fresh tires up here are connected tires. It's funny, they look seamlessly like normal tires, but inside, I'll show you in a minute, that there's this vulcanized patch where we insert the RFID chips, which will eventually relay the data on track to the Bluetooth connector inside the car. So if I roll this tire down here, you'll see something abnormal. That spot right there. So these are the vulcanized housing where the RFID chip sits. Now, if you look closely, you'll notice that it's not actually centrally mounted in the tire. When I was on the launch of this, they were saying that these placements here have been located in a very specific place in order to get the best reading from the chip. And as a result, it is slightly off center here. So yeah, there's lots of thought involved in this.
Doing a dynamic balance as well, which is the lateral forces on the wheel. Cool. So that's the dynamic as well as the static balance. And what this does then is once it's worked out how much weight it needs, it then we can actually hide it behind the spokes if we wanted to, if it was thick. Yeah. And the laser, you rotate it round until it goes to green, and then the laser beam points exactly where the weight's to go.
Oh yeah, wow! Look at that.
So there's no error.
That's convenient.
So now it's asking for 20 grams. So I'm
right.
Just
cool.
Right there, right in the middle of the laser.
There you have it.
And there it is.
Fantastic. Look at this, more fallout from previous track days. So from the outside, these look like standard Michelin Sport Cup 2s. The only indicator that this is something special is that there. The little connect symbol, which means that it has that inside, the vulcanized housing for the RFID chip. Subtle, but makes them special. Now, I know we're here for cars, but this thing is seemingly awesome. So the bike turns out to be 24 years old. Michelin have used this for training for fitting new tires onto motorbikes, but they've had it since it was brand new. Check this out. It's done 3 miles. So this really is like a collector's piece. It's so cool. But he'd run over a key. Was he walking around the office? Has anyone seen my
keys?
House keys. Yeah. House keys.
Can't get it read.
Look at this. I mean, I thought my puncture was bad. There's actually a door key. This puncture. This is no joke. This is someone's tire that actually came in for a repair, and the door key. Look at this. It's right there. Look at that. Someone's house key. Amazing. Okay, this is the moment of truth. So, the app connects to a receiver box which sits in the car. It doesn't actually connect directly with the tires. So the tires relay the data to this box, and this sits ideally in the most central location in the car, which conveniently in the GT3 happens to be underneath the armrest right here, which is great because there's also a USB slot. right there, which means I can power this unit via the USB port just there. And also, once it's closed down, it just pinch it so it doesn't shake around inside the car. And that will sync with your phone, which I shall show you shortly. And that then mounts onto the dashboard mount here, which Michelin have engineered specifically for this application. I say that because the idea behind this mount is more than just to hold your phone. They've done the best job they can at being able to engineer out any vibration that you get from the car through the mount, just in case one day they release an update for the app where you're able to record video from your phone of your lap or something like that. So despite this looking like a conventional mount, Michelin have assured me that this is some special stuff. All right, this is the first time using the app. So you've got my runs, my garage, the circuits and profile. Obviously the massive start button here, which is applicable once you get on track. So I'm setting up the app for the first time and adding a new car for the first time. So you go into my garage empty, add a car. Right, let's have a look. Make, many makes, a Porsche model 991, type GT3, year, I guess it's a 2017 car. Horsepower, yeah, 500. Dimension of tire, yeah, 305, 245, that's the one. Receiver, you don't have a receiver, we need to add a receiver, so I shall do that now. Receiver plugged in, and I assume that is pulsing to help connect with this. So I'm going to go into add a receiver, and we're all good. Oh, check this out, look, it's got dimensions of tires and pressures of the GT3, that's pretty cool. Okay, now that's all done. Add car. Do you want to add the car? Porsche 911 991 GT3, yep. There it is, car added to garage. Receiver's done its job. These 4 squares represent each tire. Front left, front right, back left, back right. And it's all synced up with each individual serial code of each RFID chip, which you saw embedded in the tire. Pretty simple, really. Frictionless stuff. Well, that was an awesome experience. I've obviously had plenty of opportunities and experiences having tyres fitted, but nothing quite as complex. It's also interesting being around the GT3, looking at all of the setup that goes into that, the specific torque fitments, the weird central locking wheel nuts with that spring-loaded mechanism inside. These are all things that I haven't seen when I've taken the car for a service and had cars swapped at the dealership, but to see it firsthand is pretty cool. And then connecting the tyre to the receiver and then in turn to my phone, actually, I'm not gonna lie, like, I did expect it to be way more complicated than that, but it turns out we just kind of turned it on and it just worked. Now the whole point of this is that we're heading to Silverstone. The next video with the GT3 will be in Silverstone, and it's perfect because the first time I drove the connected tyre was at a circuit that I didn't know. So by the majority of the time you just spend learning the circuit, and while it did give me a great example of how it worked, there's no substitute for a track that you know off by heart. So I'm going to go to Silverstone, absolutely wring this thing's neck and find out how the app works and how it will ideally either improve lap times or just the feel of the car. Michelin say that 50% less tyre wear effectively by using this app, and that's all to do with optimizing pressures so you get a more even contact patch on the surface of the circuit. So yeah, let's take it down to Silverstone. I want to say a big thanks to the guys at the Michelin Centre for hooking me up today, and the next time you'll see this car, we're going to go in 1010s around Silverstone to find out if this app can improve the whole setup of the car. As always guys, thanks for watching, I shall see you next time.